health, obviously this panel is about health and wellness, and I'm a licensed professional counselor. But to begin with, we wanted to talk to you about sort of finding a definition for wellness and what that means. And think of some words that come to, when you think of wellness, what do you think of?
Healthy.
Healthy.
Exercise.
Not sick. Exercise. Energy.
Mentally healthy.
Which one?
Mentally healthy.
Mentally healthy. Right. Good. What else?
Balance.
Balance. What?
Spirituality.
Spirituality. Yeah. So there are several, and you all mentioned several of them, several domains to wellness, and they're usually about 6 or 7, and starts off with somebody already sort of mentioned the physical health. Obviously, that's one. With taking care of your body, exercising. The next one is occupational wellness, right? Being satisfied with your professional life and building your skills. Next, you've got intellectual wellness. You don't want to stop learning. You always want to be a life learner. Next, you've got spiritual, which you mentioned, trying to find meaning and purpose in what you do. Then there's also social wellness and being connected in relationships, which we heard a lot about from the previous panel as well. And then, of course, my specialty, which is emotional wellness and mental health. And so that's kind of what I want to talk to you about. And so a lot of those things can bring you down as well. So a lot of that is so important in order to address and sort of be on top of things as well, because then things start to accumulate in other areas. You can't take care of your daily tasks, your motivation, your energy. And then, of course, it can result in physical issues without, pretty good mental health, emotional health. Other things suffer, like colitis. You have blood pressure problems, irritable bowel syndrome. Anyone? Those kind of things that can lead to heart disease, to all sorts of issues. So if you look at the wheel in general, it's all very much connected, and the other ladies are going to talk about their parts of the wheel as well. The good news is that you can actually do a lot to increase your own wellness, and some of those things might be like Ashley was talking about. Again, I think it was Ashley, no, it was Ms. Freeman, a therapist, right? If that's a really good outlet. Finding one friend to talk to is a really good outlet. But one of the things that you can also do, well, there are many things that you can do that are free. They don't cost anything. You can do them in this room, starting with a deep breath, right, from your belly. And so a lot of things that you can do to take care of your mental wellness, but also your spiritual, your occupational, intellectual, all that sort of stuff. And it's all free, and you can do these things at your own bidding and your own time. So one of the things that we're going to put on is a link to the handout that we've created. It's just a brief one-sheeter, front and back, about different things that you can do to take care of yourself. The other option is, if you don't think you will be able to, get to that, I'll email it to you. And so I'm going to pass this around, and you can just sign up for it. A lot of really good ideas that address all the areas in wellness, and like I said, they're free, and it doesn't require coming to see a therapist like myself. You can actually do a lot of your own work as well. So I'm going to turn it over now to
Yeah, so what our goal with the panel was to really kind of talk to y'all and help you see how, when we're stressed and we're overstretched, how it impacts every aspect of our lives. Because often when you're in those spaces that are just sometimes just dark halls, we don't see it because we just don't go. And I'm just trying to function and live every single day. And so our goal was to have Ingrid come and talk to y'all a little bit about how does that impact our mental wellness. And then Amy is going to talk to you about how being overstretched impacts our physical bodies, because often we don't make those connections, that we're holistically connected. And then Dr. Nina will talk to you a little bit about how us being overstretched impact our kids. I will never forget, I had a friend who would call me and she was like, my kid's acting out at school. And I don't know what she's doing. I was like, really?
Yeah, maybe not your call today.
Right. I was like, maybe it's you, man. everybody around us and what we're doing and when we're overstretched, because they notice and they see it. And then finally, we have Dr. Waldrop, who's going to talk to us a little bit about what we can do and how we can fit that time in the day, and so how ideal Chandra can actually show up and do what she needs to do to take care of real Chandra. So, Haynes.
So that's what we kind of, as we were emailing about what, kind of correlates with everybody and what we all see on a day-to-day basis, we're like, we all see how stress and I blame a lot of it on social media as well too, because I think, when you look at Facebook and, well, she's doing all that, she's taking her kids to 42 things and she's happy about it and she's smiling and taking a selfie at the same time. And she's pregnant and she says it's the best thing ever and my feet hurt and I feel like crap, and so I do feel that plays a huge role into it as more and more people, like the article the other day, I don't know if y'all saw about homecoming and prom proposals and how the mom's really doing that, not these kids, and it's becoming more and more things that the mom does. It does impact us as a whole, both with physical things and mental things, and it all corresponds together. I treat women for a lot of different things, bleeding, pain, things like that. And those things are easy to take care of because I can do a procedure or give you a medicine that stops that. But what I see over and over again is, women come and saying a couple things. One, I've had this issue for 5 months, but I haven't come because, we're all a mom and we're either a mom or we're a daughter or we're someone's sister and we're taking care of all of those people first and we're putting ourselves on the back burner. And it does impact us in that way, and the fact that we're not getting the health care we need because, I've got time to take my kids to the doctor, I gotta go take care of my parents, and we don't give ourselves the importance that we need to. And I tell people all day long, if you don't take care of yourself, you can't take care of any of those people. And so if we're really wanting to take care of them well, we have to take care of ourselves first. And that doesn't mean spend all day long, just doing what you want to and not doing any of those things. So one of the things I prescribe to people all the time, I always say, okay, and I have actually written it down on a prescription pad for people, is take 30 minutes for yourself a couple of times a week. It doesn't have to be hours. 30 minutes for yourself a couple of times a week where you turn off your cell phone, where you turn off everything, and you do what makes you find you. Because as we're somebody's sister, and as we're somebody's mom, and as we're a teacher or a doctor or anything else, we lose us, and you lose who you are, and as you do that, you're going to start having, fatigue, irritable bowel syndrome, you get changes in your skin, your hair starts falling out, because we don't recharge. We recharge our cell phone every night, but we don't recharge ourselves. So it's different for everybody. It might be, I tell people, it might be read a book, it might be sit in a hot tub, it might be, you don't have a bathtub, but hot shower. It might be just like sit in a dark room by yourself with quiet. It might be go for a run. Go back and do a hobby that you used to do before, so that you find you find you. How many times do we all say or hear our friends say, like, as with motherhood, or now that I'm married on, or now that I have this job, I just don't have time. I don't know who I was 10 years ago. Who was that person? We need to find it. We're all not going to be 20 again, but we need to find that sense of who we are, because it does impact other relationships, Of course, as a GYN, we talk a lot about intimacy issues and things like that too, and we have a lot of women that come in and say, my husband's complaining, he sent me here to see you today because I don't want to have as much sex with him. And I'm like, well, one, men and women's sex drives are totally different, and we all know that, and that's going to be totally different. But at the same time, if we're constantly going and our mind's like on a hamster wheel, and we're thinking, here's what I got to do next, here's what I got to do, here's what I got to do, then spending time with our family and our husbands ends up being one more thing on the checklist. It's just one more thing on a checklist. It's not something we even get as much enjoyment as we should have, because we're like, oh, check that off. You got your little to-do list and you're sitting there and you're just checking it off. So in that situation too, I tell the husbands, okay, so here's your prescription. You do the dishes. You cook dinner tonight, because, and when I say you cook dinner without saying, honey, how do I cut this? Honey, how do I do that? Where's the cup holder? Where's the cups? Where's the knives even at? Because that's not help. Then you're still the one doing it, even though you're not the one physically standing there. So you just kind of, I'm in
Prescription for foreplay.
Well, I say men and women are totally built different. That is kind of foreplay for a woman if he does the dishes and he clean the house, like he's automatically more attractive. I mean, there's a commercial, like the Mr. Clean commercial, and her husband's like mopping the floor and he's overweight and he's not, but all of a sudden he turns into the big muscular thing because it is attractive to have help too. So I tell people, men, their doctor just died and they want to have sex, like it's totally a physical thing more. Women's sex and intimacy with their partner is a very emotional thing. You have to have your mind kind of cleared and kind of be in the mood for it. And how many of us, like when we go to bed at night, we don't turn off, our brain's still like, do we pay the bills? Do the kids have the stuff in their book bag for tomorrow? Who's supposed to be in what uniform? We're constantly doing that. And so if you don't, get things off your plate and be able to relax and, do have foreplay and things like that to make you kind of forget the list of things, then you're not going to enjoy it. And you know that. I mean, I tell people all the time, I actually wrote an article for Access about it last month, but I tell people, like, there's a difference. Sorry, we're going to have to talk about sex, but that's some of what I do. But there's a difference in vacation sex and not vacation sex, right? And the part being, because when you're on vacation, you don't have to do all the stuff that you're doing on your daily grind. And so you can, your mind's free, you're on vacation, you can do it. And so you can have sex with the same person the same way, and it's better while you're on vacation because you're not overstressed. So, like we were saying, it's totally affects every aspect of your life, and it does come out in physical ailments. I mean, you're more fatigued, you're going to have more hair loss, you're going to have drier skin, you're going to have bowel issues, you're going to have aches and pains. So definitely, you got to find time for yourself. Like I said, it doesn't have to be. We tend to feel tend to feel selfish when we take time for ourselves, and it doesn't have to be. I take a whole day or I do that. But give yourself 30 minutes and kind of recharge yourself. And I'm a huge fan of massages and things like that too for relaxation.
Yes.
And I prescribe that to all the pregnant women too. Pregnancy massages are a must. But it really does. It affects everything. And that's something we can't just fix with it. You can't fix that with a procedure or a pill or anything. We have to do that as a whole. And we have to do that with each other too. I mean, I was talking to a patient yesterday and she was like, I have to spend the night to get tickets to my daughter's dance recital because the moms all sleep in the car outside so they can be the first ones in line to get it. And she was like, it's our kids as well.
Well, a quick break right before Dr. Nina talks. I want to ask y'all, so I want to do a quick check-in. What questions do you have so far? What thoughts do you have? Anything that you want to know or anything that you thought coming in here that you wanted to take away that hasn't been provided yet? Mid-break check. We're good. All right, Dr. Nina.
Okay, excellent. So there's a study called the ACEs study. It's called Adverse Childhood Events. And this came out of California and Kaiser. And what it showed that if a child had 3 adverse events, it would decrease or lessen their lifetime, their lifespan. I think about in October of last year, there was a young lady who was killed. She was on her way to work, and as I was driving to my workout class at 5 o'clock in the morning, I see a whole lot of traffic on I-10 and a lot of police cars. And this young lady, she lost her life, killed violently by some teenagers. And I thought about that little girl that she had. She was a single mother. And so, one, being a single parent, if you're a single parent, that's 1 strike against you for your child. 2, say if your child has asthma, that's 2. And then I thought about, well, now this little girl has lost her mom, so she has basically no parent that's there for her, so that's 3. So how do we as a community, because it's not just her child, we have got to start taking care of our children, not just the ones in West Mobile or in RV as well, or Alabama Village. Those are all of our kids. And so we have to start thinking as a community when we start talking about the health and wellness of our children, because it does play a major part. When I see a parent that is stressed out, the kids are too. And it starts from a neonate, from an infant, all the way to high school. And it will manifest itself in so many different ways. So I had a child who come in with abdominal pain. And he would, he would get out of school, and then the mom would bring him in. She's like, why is he having so much abdominal pain? But when he's at home, he's totally fine. Because he wanted to spend time with his mother. That was the main reason why he kept having that abdominal pain. And when I talk about with kids about losing weight and obesity, because we know it's a problem, but then the parent comes in and they're obese, and so having to have that conversation gets really difficult because it's a lifestyle change in that whole entire family. And so it can be very challenging when the parent is stressed out, because the child will come in with a conduct disorder. They're being very defiant at school. And then you have to start asking questions, well, what's going on at home? Or they're having a learning disorder at school. They're bringing home failing grades. And so then you ask questions like, well, what's going on at home? And they have all this chaos at home, and then you're asking them to read and learn. How can they do that when they have all this going on in the background of their mind? So we have got to start taking care of home. We have to start taking care of our community, and then that will start helping take care of our kids. Some other ways that we can, when we're stressed out, it affects our children. Depression is a major problem, and anxiety. And how is that exhibited? Over or under eating, eating disorders, and that can affect elementary and middle school kids, and girls and boys. Those are a lot of drugs and sex, and I mean a whole bunch of sex issues that come up. And the parents have no idea. I just gave a talk, I had a free talk at my office a couple days ago, because the moms aren't talking to their girls about sex or anything at all. And so they're coming to me and said, I need you to talk to them about this. So, but they're hearing it from all their kids and friends at school, but we're not talking about it with them as well. And so it's manifesting in a whole bunch. This summer was crazy. I had a bunch of active teenagers.
And lots of teen centers.
We did. We did lose the teen center in Mobile County. And so that comes difficult for us. So we have got to do better as a community, not just our own kids, but we've got to start taking care of others' kids as well. It's bigger than just us. And I don't have any children, but these are all of our kids, right? Thank you.
Okay, well, I'm a professor by profession, so I always like to look for the evidence behind things, and I'm also very practical. And so I think everybody knows, that being healthy requires you to be active, physically active, and you know that almost everything is made better. All kinds of health, illness problems are made better by increased physical activity. Okay, you know that. So why doesn't everybody do it? Right? If all we had to do was know about something to change our behavior, we'd all be perfect. And perfect Chandra would be here every day. but it's a lot harder than that. So I'm going to give you some good news. Although the national, guidelines for how much exercise you need are based on having like an exercise period, 30 minutes every day, and if you do more than that, it's even better. But it's all been about, exercise, whether that was running or walking or going to aerobics class or doing Zumba or whatever it is. But there's a lot of good evidence coming out now that just being a physically active person is just as good for preventing death, premature death, for improving your quality of life, for protecting you against depression and anxiety, for all of the things that we always thought you had to go get on the treadmill for. And as someone who is the elder in this group and a grandmother, and whose body can't quite do the things that she wants it to do anymore, knowing that as long as I can stay active some way, I'm still going to be giving myself the same benefits that I was giving myself when I was 20. And so that's a great piece of news for me, and I hope it is for you too. So I also would like to share with you some of my personal tips and tricks for fitting physical activity into a busy lifestyle. And I know the first excuse that everyone gives when you ask them, you know, are you physically active regularly, or do you exercise regularly? They say, I don't have time. I don't have time. And time is a barrier for sure. You know, it used to be easy when you were a single person maybe, and you just did whatever you wanted to on your own time. But then you got married, and then you had to consult somebody else about what you did with your time, and then you had kids. And so you have to think up different strategies to make it happen. And the first step might be, and this is just a really tough thing to do, is to actually analyze how you use your time every day. Because when you do that honestly, you don't find some time that you're doing something that's not very good for you. And it's kind of fun, and you know, you can say, ooh, that person was bad in that picture. I would have posted that. Whatever, you know, you say when you're looking at things. But that would be the first step. And then you can work to identify possible things that you might be able to change. We're always caring for others, whether it's caring for some of us who are older, caring for siblings or parents, or those of us who are younger and still have children. So we're always caring for others. So you got to figure out how you can get some physical activity in while you're caring for others. Well, and these are things that I did when my kids were little. So the first thing I had to do once I had 2 kids and a husband who worked from 7 a.m. to 10 p.m. every day, and I had no family around. I'm in the godforsaken, what I call godforsaken middle of the country in Illinois, and is that I had to decide that I was going to get up before everyone else did. And I was a faithful VHS Jane Fonda. And you know, it's so much easier now. You got apps, you don't need a VHS machine, and you don't even have to be in your living room with your homemade step bench or anything. You can plug something in and do something just like that. And so that was the way I did it, to fit it in. And you don't have to do it every day. You can do it, if you can do it 3 times a week, then you are kicking it on a physical activity plan. Then, you know, let's say your son has guitar lessons. When you drop him off at guitar lessons, you change into your running clothes in the car, and you go for a run, and then you come back, and you can change out of them or not, and you have deodorant in your car, and you have some baby wipes in your car, and you have the power of the bun, which requires absolutely nothing except for just like, okay, I'm good. And you know, you find ways to fit it in. You can be the mom that walks around the soccer field during soccer practice. I bet you could get some people to do that with you now. Nobody would do that with me back in when my kids were little. But when they're little, you can stroll them. When they're bigger, they can ride their bikes. You know, do things, you know, with your family to get outside. And I just recently hurt my knee more, and so I've been doing indoor activities. And I realized the other day, I miss being outside. Being outside is so therapeutic. There's a lot of good evidence that and we live in a wonderful place to be outside, which brings me to my next thing. And some of you, might not agree with me. Sweating. Sweating is going to happen to you in Mobile. You're going to sweat whether you're walking or whether you're running or whether you're walking fast. So you might as well make the most of it. And then that's where deodorant, baby wipes come in again. But, you cannot be afraid of sweat. And I had a great friend who was an Olympian. And when she had her kids, she said, sometimes I only get 30 minutes to go out, and she's a runner, so she'd run to go out and run. She said, so I would have a 10-minute warm-up, I'd run hard for 10 minutes, and then I would cool down for 10 minutes. And by the time I was done, I was usually not sweating so bad. And granted, she did not live in Mobile, but it was still south. And so you can do this. And I realized that I live in 5 states, and this state has the biggest aesthetic culture of anywhere I've ever lived, where the way women look, what they wear, their makeup, their hair, their much artificially enhanced body parts, etc., are very prevalent. And I just encourage you to not get caught up in that if you can help it, to let your own light and strength shine through, and not worry about all of that, because I think it just is a lot to make you feel bad about yourself. And so when you go out and you're active, your inner glow will do more for you than any makeup will do. And as you can see, I'm a proponent of the no makeup movement as well. So the last thing I want to say is that as you go through the stage of your life, the way you get these things done, of course, is going to change. And speaking to mental health and relationships, being the spouse of someone who has a very demanding job that often doesn't end until late in the evening, we have had to find a way to have time to connect. And so we have a daily date. It happens to be at 5 a.m. and we do it on a 3-mile walk. And there's such a thing as walking therapy. I'm sure you're aware. And there's something about moving while you're talking that opens up connections between you that you don't have the opportunity to do if you're just like looking each other in the face. You're walking along, you might say something that's really been bothering you. You might just go ahead and spit it out. You got at least 30 minutes before you can get back home. Maybe you'll actually be able to talk about it. And there won't be something else that interrupts whatever it is you're talking about. You might be able to talk about it, you might be able to work through it. If not, after 30 minutes of walking, whatever anger and emotions are there, they kind of calm down a little. So it's never a bad thing. And it's been a relationship builder. And so that's just another example. Okay, Jeff. You can see I'm a little passionate about that.
I think a big thing too is for all of us is just to be able to ask for help too. I see a lot of times we feel embarrassed to ask for help, like, why can't I do it all? I should be able to do this all. And we look at other people, and like she was talking about earlier about, the I should and think in the negative talk about ourselves. We look at other people and say, how does she do all that? She does 42 things and volunteers and works and does all that. And why can't I run these, get these 3 errands done in the day or do that? But I realize that everybody's struggling just the same.
And no one's going to put on Facebook, I've had the shittiest day, I hate my kid, my child, I want to leave him at Kmart.
Yeah.
Nobody's going to put that stuff out there. So, you see like 1 second of somebody's day, and they're like, oh, I need to put this on Facebook.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that one thing, so it's hard.
I
Keep it in
couldn't survive
perspective.
with a village either. I'm like, excuse me, could you get my kid? I can't get there in time. But it's okay to ask for help. And then ask for help when we're overstressed too, and say, hey, I need a mental health break, and can you watch my kids, or can you talk to me, or any of that? Have those friends that you can vent to and say, I'm going to vent. Yeah. Tomorrow I'm going to be totally different about my husband or my job or something. But I just need to vent it out with friends.
If I could add 2 things, you kind of mentioned it. I think, like what was discussed before, the self-talk and creating sort of a mantra or a phrase for yourself. And I teach this or try to teach it to all my employees. They're all millennials. and they have difficulty with, and I apologize if you're a millennial in here, but they have difficulty with boundaries and saying no and not being who, you know, they've read about in a book and being this leader and so forth. And so I think if you can say to yourself, you know, your urgency is not my emergency. And then one that I use a lot, but I apologize if I offend you, but you gotta get what's called a fuck it bucket. Okay? Yes.
You only have so many.
Yes. And even if it's a mental F it bucket, you know? Because then you can prioritize, you know, you can put it in the bucket for right now because you've got to do these other things over here. And you can take it back out, or you can just rip it up and say, you know, it's at the bottom of the bucket. So, you know, so I think a lot of using mantras and mottos to, you know, or some sort of word to help reinforce things.
Yeah. Is somebody gonna die?
Yeah.
Is
somebody
somebody, is somebody
bleeding?
dying? Is it really life or death? Because if not, we can deal with that later.
Another thing I recommend is for families to take field trips with each other. Growing up, one of the greatest things I remember is when, and I grew up in Indiana, when we would go to like Disney World or Atlanta, my dad would stop off and we'd stop off in Nashville. And we would go to Meharry Medical College or Fisk University, which is surprising. I'm gonna notice in the future that's where I attended school. Or we'd stop at Atlanta and do look at the MLK Memorial. And so thanks to the Leadership Mobile class of 2017, best class ever. I see Keisha, Larissa, and Jamie here, my classmates. But we've come up with Art Go, one of the groups, it was one of the groups, the art group, came up with Art Go. And what it is, it's a free thing you can do with your family. It's 2 to 3 miles for physical activity, and you just track the different arts, outside art that's in Mobile. It's even on an app that you can go to, but you guys can do it anytime, but it's a lot of fun. That's a way for physical activity, it's a way for bonding, it's free. So that's something I recommend, field trips, fun field trips with your kids. And I have plenty of brochures.
All right, so takeaway. So what I strongly believe